Hey everyone, Skull902 here, and welcome to a companion series for Rule of 3, Follow-Ups. Everything I considered worth taking another look into in the original series is eligible, and after a random selection I have 4 previous episodes with projects I want to give that treatment. The first of those episodes was IDW's Sonic the Hedgehog comic. After the first 3 issues, I thought of it as well written and easy to consume owing to the shortness of its stories. For this video I'm reading up to the end of the first major storyline, which concludes in issue 12. Will they continue the streak of being a fun, bite-sized read? Let's dig in. First thing I want to talk about are the visuals. Overall, it's still good. The action was fun, they have a knack for pulling off wacky expressions, and most of the time when it's just chill you've got good framing and posing, stuff like that. However, sometimes consistency does get tossed aside as if the deadline was coming up and whoever was drawing said, okay, whatever, this is good enough for a kid's comic, and called it a day. While I like those wacky expressions and the times they try to be funny with it, perhaps a little too much time goes into it to the detriment of important shots like the one at the end of issue 5, which is when I first noticed these. Sometimes it's a character's head looking a little fucked up or weird things such as Sonic wrapping his arm around Silver's shoulder but it looks like his arm's going through Silver's throat, or Blaze and Amy almost looking like they have visible necks in one panel. From what I saw it happens to Rouge the most. Dunno if it's one or a couple of the artists in particular, and I really hate to say this, but looking at her sometimes felt like they cared way more about giving her big hips or detailing her boobs than the rest of her. It's an armored plate covering her chest, guys, not a form-fitting cloth. I'm still not a big fan of the original character designs either. Rough and Tumble are the worst, and Dr. Starline's not far behind. Tangle needed a better color scheme and outfit as well. That being said, I do dig how Whisper looks. The cloak, the mask, her tan coloring, good job. As far as character writing goes, my thoughts remain relatively the same. We've got a strong showing for the game characters. In particular, I like Silver's characterization as a lovable dork, and think that's the best way to write him. Knuckles getting a real big moment to shine, being one of the main 3 combatants against Metal Sonic. Amy showing some serious leadership skills, but letting her compassionate side come through, namely letting someone else make a fair amount of say in plan making. And the big one, Sonic and Shadow's talk about whether Eggman deserved to be punished was a fucking masterful showcase of their respective personalities. The OCs, however, fall kinda flat. I already talked about Rough and Tumble, but I think Dr. Starline is just kind of generic and a good opportunity with him was wasted. More on that later. Tangle is really annoying. I think of her the same way I do Styx and Boom. Whisper again is the exception to the rule, but her introduction was bogged down by the fact that once they were fighting Theta, she shot her Wisp on like 1 time and then got incapacitated for the rest of the battle. After that, she didn't do much of consequence, and I feel the same about Tangle. The story could have easily done without them. The stories remain short, which, again, I think helps make them easy to digest. I was able to read all 9 issues in only a couple hours, with breaks included. As far as the overall plot goes, Metal Sonic's plan is solid enough, and what they did with Eggman was interesting, but not without shortcomings. Again, I'll get to it later. It was good, but there were some problems. I mentioned the OCs being of no significance, but there were also things like Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy having this awesome moment together talking about how they're going to get into the action, only for the latter 2 to just sit on their asses and do nothing during the next mission. Blaze's implementation in the story raised some questions, such as Amy, and possibly other characters who should know better, not knowing what the Soul Emeralds even were, or what powers they granted, despite having met Blaze during the events of Rush. Surely Sonic, Tails, or Cream would have said something. Shadow's colossal fuck-up by not following Amy's orders felt a little unlike him, if only because he didn't really have anything to gain from fighting Metal directly, unlike other times he's done something similar in other series. The bit with Metal Sonic in the epilogue kinda gets me too. Why would Sonic have turned him back on without getting Tails to disable or reprogram him first? Or, if Metal absolutely had to escape, why not keep him out of the comics for a while to make readers wonder whether he actually did take up Sonic on living a life of peace? To that end, let's finally get back around to Eggman and Dr. Starline. Dare I say it, but I think they reverted Eggman to his old personality too soon. I know he would have eventually had to go back to being evil, I'm not saying it shouldn't have been done. But an interesting way to go about the second arc, and what I felt was that missed opportunity, was having Starline create the metal virus as a means of distracting our heroes while he searched for Eggman, only for the virus to get out of hand. Then at the end of the arc, we could see Eggman going back to his former self and taking command. Some other smaller stuff, both good and nitpicky, I wanted to mention were that I loved some of the references and callbacks. In particular, Metal using lines from What I'm Made Of or Eggman's Mystic Ruins base making a comeback. I also thought that the foreshadowing they did for the next arc was extremely subtle and well done. On the flip side, I didn't understand why they needed title cards when the characters first showed up in some of the issues after they start the comics off with a roll call. The insistent terminology for transformation names felt a little unnatural too. I think there was only one time while he was in the form that Metal wasn't called Neo Metal Sonic or Neo. Just for reference, Super Sonic was only addressed as such within the games one time if I recall. Lastly was Blaze's inner monologue when she was fighting against the Egg Fleet. Not the stuff about helping the others or getting sentimental about their friendship. That's fine and good for her character. It's more about the Super Friends-like explanations of the situation, even though we can clearly see what's going on. But those negative criticisms are nitpicks. Finally, again, I didn't read the extra non-Sonic stories included in the comics. So after all that, what are my thoughts? I think the momentum carried by the first 3 issues was slowed down. That being said, while it's not great, the story is still good in my opinion. There's some interesting things ahead. Silver sticking around, Knuckles is back on Angel Island, Amy's the leader of what's soon to become the Restoration, and while it was a little soon, Eggman going back to his old ways isn't inherently a bad thing. They did things right just enough to keep me hooked for the second storyline, which I will eventually review under the My Thoughts title. It's a fun series that's easy to take in with its small installments, and I look forward to continuing where I left off. I hope you enjoyed my first follow-up for Rule of 3. I've been Skull902, thank you for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day.